to the Construction Big Breakfast, where we give you a hearty serving of insider tips and business strategies to help fuel your day so you can thrive in the construction industry. Now, here's your host.
Hi everyone, thanks for turning in to another episode of the Construction Big Breakfast. I'm your host today, Ben Pritchard, and joining me today to talk about how to attract more people into the construction industry, how to make the construction industry more attractive to young people, women, and anyone else that we'd want to get into the industry is Caroline Key. So thank you for joining me. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners, please?
I will, yeah. So I'm Caroline. I am a freelance construction project manager, currently working with East Riding Council predominantly, and I also look after the Generation for Change emerging professional network for construction excellence.
Well, look after, go on, you're the national co-chair.
I am the national co-chair, yes.
Don't for the first time in your life pretend to be modest.
I mean, there's got to be a first for everything.
Yeah, well, there we go. We'll try see if we can get any more going in this chat. So, as you've been warned, and as we've warned each other, it's going to be a boring answer from both of us. The first question for every one of our guests is, what did you have for breakfast?
I had a sole cup of tea. That's it. I don't do breakfast, Ben.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, the important question, especially coming up north, was it a Yorkshire tea?
Of course it was Yorkshire tea. There is no other cup of tea, Ben.
There you go. I will wholeheartedly agree with that. And then, yeah, mine was boring as well. I had a tooth out last week, so I'm still avoiding solids where possible. So I had porridge and a Yorkshire tea. So
I mean, at least you got the tea in, so.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that's the much boring part of this podcast. So if we start maybe exploring a little bit more about you then. So we're talking about attracting more people into the industry, trying to get a more diverse industry, all those things that the industry's been talking about, we've been talking about for however long we've been talking. I won't put a date to it because that'll make us both seem older than we are. But why don't we start with the obvious question of what attracted you to construction in the first place?
To be honest, for when I started, it was a teacher I had at school who used to be an architect. And back in the day, they were trying to, it was called ICSIS at the time, which is essentially was supporting young women into construction roles. So they kind of went round all the construction fairs, you know, where everybody has a stand and we all go and we say, you know, like, this is what construction's great about. At the time, I really loved the pencil sharpeners, you know, because that's what all kids go for. But yeah, we started off and did a project of redesigning the school. So we entered a national competition, and it was taking a place of, you know, what was quite run down in the school I went to, and how we could redevelop that into a better area. So we made the courtyard into a library with kind of like a bit of an art space and a bit of a social gathering space, just to be able to kind of redevelop the school and try and do that. So I took that kind of competition right through and went to nationals of it, and we lost, unfortunately, to a set of toilet pods that had got fish on them, which I were really, really gutted about. But, you know, win some, you lose some.
Well, I hope you're downplaying in the toilet. I hope there was a little bit more to the toilet pods.
Oh no, there were genuinely
because it sounds like your project was quite good. But I guess the key for that is that you saw firsthand, early doors, the positive impact the industry can have, how it can be really transformative when done well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really good for us because at the time we had a lot of redevelopment happening in the town, and we had all the architects and project teams in there as well. So it kind of hit home to me, just the importance of having real life construction experience being brought to kids, because I remember that now, and that's why obviously I like to get involved in that side of it, because it just made such an impact on me, being able to see it and being able to go to site and actually see what happened, and it made it a little bit more real.
And that sort of positive view that you had early doors of the construction industry, how real has that been? What you see?
It's a very mixed bag, you know. Obviously, the people that are doing a lot of these promotional events and supporting the young generation into construction have got that mindset. They've got the positive kind of kick with them to be able to start it, and they give the right information off. Now, I mean, you've heard me say countless times, it happens in pockets, this, and whilst the behaviours have changed in the industry and it's become a lot more inclusive, it's become a lot more open, and the qualifications have adapted, there are still a lot of, let's just say, an older mindset where it's not really accepted that you don't take kind of the university degree route to go into construction, that apprenticeships aren't accepted in the same way, and work experience isn't accepted in the same way as what a degree would be. And I think there's a lot of that mindset still sits there. And I think what's also quite sad in a lot of cases is that there's a lot of behaviours in construction that still exist. Like I said, it's in pockets, but there are behaviours that aren't necessarily what would attract the next generation. And I think that's what we really need to work on, and kind of stamp out and really call out those behaviours when we see them.
So, I mean, that's sort of obviously a key point, that culture that you sometimes see. But the training one is interesting, and obviously you firsthand, you worked for a while for CITB, so you were there as part of trying to help train the industry in some ways. Do you think then that, so is it that what is being provided isn't fit for purpose, or that people's attitude towards where that can lead you, the talent path or the path post apprenticeships, and aren't well understood?
I think it's a twofold approach. I think the first thing is that a lot of the qualifications are definitely not fit for purpose. They are teaching outdated resources, methods and procedures, and I understand, that academia they have to catch up, and they've got a set schedule which they have to follow. So it's always going to be a little bit behind in what a fast-paced industry is, but it definitely needs adapting in terms of what's happening.
But did you just call construction a fast-paced industry?
I mean, it is compared to academia, yeah. We take the comparison. But yeah, so it needs a lot of work in terms of what they can do now. You've obviously got the DEC programs that Alison's running. They are fields ahead of what everything else is, and the kids that are coming out of that are more employment ready than people who've been at university for 5 years. So there are strides being made in the industry, but it is a case of how do we move that forward quicker, and make sure that we are adapting the qualifications to meet that. And obviously, harping back to my CITB days, I think the real thing is there's a lot of emphasis still on the trades, which, fine, yes, we need the trades, but there is a lot of other aspects of industry that just aren't covered in part of the qualifications, and I think that's not recognised, and particularly it's not recognised by CITB. It's something that obviously I've kind of talked about before, that they need to expand the scope of where their support lies, because there is a lot of new trades and new construction professionals that need to be supported by them. And I think the other kind of side of that, with your other part of the question, is when we're looking at culture and behaviours and our apprenticeships accepted, I think they are more widely accepted, yes. And I think I've seen a lot of change in the last kind of 10 years or so about how they've been adopted, and they've become a lot more mainstream. But I think there's still a nervousness from a lot of companies to take on apprentices, that because of the support that they need, and particularly at the moment, given the last 12 months, it's been very difficult for people to say, well, how do I take on an apprentice or somebody who's new to the profession, and how do I support them in that when I'm working from home? So that for me is a quite a worry, is that how do we then go back to that sense of getting that momentum built up, because I think at the minute it's dropped a little bit, understandably so, because it's a different way of managing, but it's how do we kind of reinvigorate that and get a different style of management to be able to support those people coming through.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic has been really difficult for young people joining the industry, whether it's on site on the trades or young architects, engineers. You learn so much by working with others, and not being able to do that has certainly been made it a lot more difficult for them. I think I mean, I don't want to just say that construction's rubbish or academia, because I think both. I think we have to appreciate that both in pockets are great. When they work together are great.
Absolutely.
And I think that certainly is something that could always become better, how we work together to better shape and understand, and see that soft skills are also more as important, if not more important, than some of the harder skills that are taught through academia. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone last week where we were discussing actually sort of running training for a potential client, and ultimately it didn't matter if the behaviours weren't there to trust everyone, because I think that's the one thing that the industry has little of, or not enough of anyway, is trust.
Yeah.
If we start with that as a core behaviour, then everything else will sort of almost work itself out. You need to stop blaming procurement and everything else. Yeah, it could be better, but if there's no trust, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and I think it harks back to all the times we've sat there and talked about collaboration. What is collaboration, and the fact that we're having to talk about it clearly shows that we don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been chair of G4C for 3-4 years now?
Something like that, yeah. Probably a little bit longer than I should have been, but I'm still here.
Yeah, well, longer than I lasted. But I get one of the key reasons that you wanted to join. Obviously, you were inspired by me, Anto, Robin, and the likes who came before you.
You've caught me.
Yeah, but also you sort of saw it as hopefully a platform where you could help make a difference, help sort of spread the word, share your experiences and the likes. And I mean, in what you're trying to do with G4C, what's a key focus for you and the key message that you're trying to get out there at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, G4C is all about helping the next generation to be able to give them a platform to be able to really voice the opinions that they might have, and explore new ideas with the comfort of not necessarily being in the working environment. So it's kind of that safe space to be able to explore that, and I think the ideas that kind of our next generation come up with, they're way in front of what a lot of industry leaders are coming up with in a lot of cases, because they're just so fresh thinking and innovative in a sense. So for me, it's about that, and that's the whole thing of what G4C stands for, is to be able to give that platform. And I think the virtual project last year that we did as part of the response to the pandemic was a great thing to be able to connect people. And to be honest, the movement saw a lot of strides last year in terms of connection across the UK. So that's one of the really great things that kind of came out of last year. And the reason that we set that up was simply because so many of the young people were furloughed, and were just kind of plunged into that working from home environment, and more often than not sat in a bedroom, just kind of isolated on their own for so long, that we found a way to kind of engage the UK and bring together those kind of forward-thinking individuals to be able to explore different ideas about how we become more resilient as an industry. And the ideas that they came up with, absolutely great. And the dual mentoring program that the North East are running will now be rolled out nationally as a result of that. And I think it's kind of those little pockets of projects that they're doing. It's not necessarily something that happens nationally with G4C. It's these little pockets that start in different regions, responding to what the regional issues are, which we're then able to share with all the other areas, and kind of bring that out and hopefully make it something that's an offer available for everybody, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great year for G4C, for outputs, and also, for the last couple of years, the awards, things like that have highlighted some amazing young people all across the country. So it's a great sounding board and a great place for young people to get involved with the industry, certainly. We'll make sure that we put some details in the blurb for your contact details and G4C's contact details as well, if anyone watches this and is interested. So that's enough of a sales pitch for G4C for now. If we go back then to the this idea of trying to attract more people to the industry, when people talk about attracting the next generation to the industry, attracting people to come back to the industry, getting more women involved in the industry, all these sort of things. So there's one or two key areas that people keep sort of going back to. One is obviously the image of the industry, and then the other is that need to evolve to more technology, more off-site manufacturing, stuff like that, to make it a more pleasant working environment, I guess. No one likes working in the cold, particularly. Yeah, although having spent the last couple of years, not the last year, but before that anyway, going back and forth to Canada, I can tell you it never gets that cold here.
I bet it doesn't.
But I mean, for you, if you had a silver bullet and you had to choose one path or the other, that image or the working practices, well, what do you think would really sort of make the biggest difference in attracting more people to the industry?
I genuinely, I think it's the working practices. It's a difficult one to answer, but I think if you have the structure and the backbone behind it, automatically the image will improve because you've got that infrastructure there to be able to offer the flexibility. So it's not just plain lip service to it. So whilst the image of the industry is obviously something that we need to work on to be able to promote it, I think by actually looking at the fundamental issues and how we can grow the industry and make sure that we are becoming one of the more responsive and resilient industries, the ones that are flexible to be able to offer different working roles, that allows us to be able to automatically promote ourselves in a better way, because we're not just promoting the cult jobs outside, because there's more on offer.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things we're not very good at is promoting the industry properly, and the industry is disjointed in as much as that it's made up of a number of industries that we just all lump together, and then we try and sell that. But really, what anyone ever does is just sell their company. There's no real sort of, I know that you've got things like Go Construct and stuff like that tries, but without really the sort of the humph behind it of industry. I've seen some great shared apprentice type things out there, shared graduate schemes as well, where an individual joins part of the industry and spends time with lots of different organizations and stuff like that. This far more joined up approach to recruitment for the industry at that sort of grassroots young level, I think we made a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that shared apprenticeship model and kind of that moving around is exactly what young people want as well, because it's not just about having one career anymore. It's about having that portfolio of different careers to be able to say, it's like what you said earlier about the soft skills. They're the ones that are important. Get the fundamentals of the soft skills right. You can then learn the job almost as you go along, which allows you to be a lot more transferable in terms of what the offer is that you have. And I think that difference of experiences gives kind of just a new way of thinking in terms of what we do, and I think that's what's the nice thing about construction, is that you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly learn by doing, but you've just got to be careful when you're doing that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, that the portfolio career is certainly something that I didn't really think about when I joined, and I've only worked for 2 organizations in 15 and a bit years, maybe a bit longer.
Don't tell anybody.
It's not that there's not that much grey yet. But yeah, this idea that people will continuously want to change and swap their role and what they do. There's more, nobody wants to be one thing. They want to be a construction professional, maybe do a bit of commercial, do a bit of project management, risk and everything. This need for more well-rounded people is certainly not just what I think the industry needs, but what people come into the industry want as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it kind of comes back to that this is what we don't sell ourselves well at, is that there is all these different careers that are available in construction. And I think people look at it and say, oh, well, I can be one thing in construction. But because we are that industry that has so many different elements, it's hard for us to be able to differentiate into those little pockets as to, what people can do. And I think it kind of comes back to the kind of, if you look at the kids at school, the careers advice is very much still on the lines of you can be a plumber, you can be a plasterer, you can be a brickie, or you can be an architect.
Well,
careers advice.
My careers advice was count bricks or lay bricks.
Well, mine was when I told them that I like to design things and I like to construct things and I liked people, and that I should be a nurse. Now, can you imagine me being a nurse
No.
I mean, that's like the world's worst career for me. You know.
No, I think your bedside manner would be a bit of an issue. No
A little
offense.
bit to be desired. You know, but yeah, I think it kind of comes back to that, is that you know, until we can educate the educators, it's a difficult
well, and it's
hill to climb.
giving them an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure things have changed, but you mentioned Alison and Dec, and I remember talking to her a few years ago, and she was saying she'd often get phone calls from school saying, you know, I've got this terrible class, or something along those lines. You know, it's these people who they didn't think were good enough for anything else, or just give them a chance in construction. I mean, that's unfair on the kids.
Yeah, it is.
And unfair on construction, but construction is, and this is again something that we don't sell very well. It's a great opportunity of you can come in on the tools, and your career could go anywhere. Not just in terms of how far you can progress, but there's few industries where you can pick up skill sets that you can literally use around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the really great thing that we should shout about so much more. You know, it's one of the reasons I love the industry, you know, because you can kind of just move about and try different things, and you know, you meet so many lovely people along the way. I mean, excluding you, of course, Ben. You know.
That's just like, we'll cut that, I think. You off my Christmas card list, Caroline?
Oh, is that right?
Anyway, moving on. You made me forget what question I was about to ask. What was I about to ask? So, I mean, it's the start of 2022. So you're still obviously a key part of G4C. Still, for you personally, sort of, you know, you want to carry on shouting from the rooftops, as it were, of how great the industry is. But what are you going to try and do this year to make that difference?
That's a difficult question. I don't think I've quite set my New Year's resolution yet for the for the industry. I think for me, it is more about raising awareness, and it's about engaging as many people as we can into the sector. And I think one of the key things that for me that I'd like to see move forward is to engage a lot more different industries into our sector, to be able to learn the different aspects of how they work, and different skill sets that come with other sectors, and look at how we can transfer some of those skills in, because I think that's quite key for us to be able to progress, is to actually look at other areas and see how we can learn from them, really. So I think for me that would be you know, kind of the biggest thing, but I will continue to harp on about you know, all the things that we can do better, all the things that we're great at, and just see how we can try and attract more people in.
And if you had to sort of distill the good of what you've experienced so far in your career, and you know, if you were given a sales pitch almost for joining the industry, a quick little elevator pitch, putting you on the spot here, Caroline.
Yeah, you really are.
Because you were so horrible to me just then. But come on, you're on the spot. You're in an elevator or in front of a classroom full of youngsters wanting to make sure that they know how great a career in construction can be. What would you tell them?
I think for me, construction is all about that career that can take you absolutely anywhere. It's like we said, you can go out from working on a job site in Barnsley to working at the other side of the world, and I think that's the really great thing about construction. We are one big happy family. Everybody knows when you do something great. Everybody knows something when you mess up. But it's that kind of supportive environment where you literally can do anything that you want to do, and there are so many opportunities out there that it's just a fantastic place to be.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I'd certainly echo all that. And the only other thing I would add is there's very few industries where you can see firsthand the positive impact that you can have on so many lives. You know, whether you're part of a mega project like High Speed 2, or even if you're just refurbing someone's house, you know, you can have a positive impact, improve people's lives, improve outcomes, and generally create value for not just yourselves but society and the economy. So there's very few jobs out there that can give you that in your lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, how many people who work in construction walk past something and go, I built that?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, certainly. And some people go around the world pointing things out that they've been involved with. So no, you're right, and go around the world going, oh God, did you know that this is that, and the other? I do bore my kids at times.
Yep.
Anyway, on that, we've been talking for 25 odd minutes, I think now, so we best wrap up. See, I told you it'd fly past, and we get to the end in no time at all. So thank you, Caroline, for joining me today. I've enjoyed the conversation mostly. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or get in touch with G4C, find out what's involved in their regions, we'll put some links in the bio for today's podcast. And hopefully they'll get in touch and we can help sort of drive more young people into really sort of truly enjoying and thriving in the industry.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in, watching. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, share all those other good things that you do to improve and increase our viewership. There'll be another episode next week, as always. And on that, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, do drop one of us Invennt a note, and we'll make sure to get you on a future episode. So Caroline, one last time, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you everyone for watching and listening.
Want to learn more about how Invennt can help your business maximize its bottom line? Head on over to www.invennt.com and get in touch with our team today. Thanks for joining us this week on the Construction Big Breakfast. Make sure to visit our website, www.invennt.com, where you can subscribe to the Construction Big Breakfast on all platforms so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a positive rating. Or if you'd simply share it with a friend, that would help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.